So that looks like you showed that. I like that.
Well, they're not.
Yeah.
It's annoying when somebody's note taker sends everybody in the whole field that was part of that. Does yours do that?
What's that?
Where it sends an email of your notes to everybody?
No.
Cause I've been on some Zooms, thank you. Some Zooms with corporate, where there's like 12 of them. It's annoying because they all come,
Yeah. And everybody has to apply.
but there are some differences between the different AIs and how they record and what they record. So. Scribe, Otter, what's yours?
Yeah, no, I just go through them.
I accidentally sent them how.
I don't know, something in the drawer, but there's probably still this thing.
You're not getting out there. Thank you. Halifax.
About 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you. Guess I gotta take your question.
Yeah. So I printed this for me.
Yeah, you do the agent.
This
Agent one, yeah.
And then I printed this one
That's
for
right.
them.
I'll just wait till
Yeah,
mine.
it's a short
and
hand,
yeah.
If they both come
So I'll
back.
give you one.
Have your name back.
And then we can start.
It doesn't have mine?
You didn't spend out there.
Oh,
Let's see, you should have it.
Oh, Lord, Anna.
Kids,
I get
Sorry.
Still have your real estate. Yeah, so.
But
I'm gonna call you.
Okay, but it's not your brand. In the future, if you set up right, should print presented by, and then your name and info.
My glasses.
Yes, well, no, the-
Oversized.
Where the
You
real
don't
rock.
make any of the.
Where the real rock.
The fire pit.
No,
Gotcha.
no, no,
You just straighten out.
it's too small. Secondly, and I have my wife got me one that has the holder for the cigar.
Oh,
So you just.
okay. Efficient. You tell me when.
1 minute.
No, but to be honest with you, most of it, like I have to. But it's like a 1 or 2 sentence tops, and then let it fill in for me. I mean, one of them was pointed. But
I was gonna say,
that was the one that was not vetoed, and I was told to take down one, so.
that was, I read that, I was just like. I
missed that one.
That has some stank on it.
I just finished that closing, this morning.
You're talking about the, why go for a team when you can have an individual?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's the one. I was like, I wonder who he's talking about.
Oh, you're fine, you don't have to.
That was definitely shot in
Can
the.
you give me, so I know when I switched my phones, I can't find this information. So can you just send that to me? Where's my son? Facebook? I don't know, I can't find out.
You probably had it saved.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, thank you.
It's an iPhone issue. You should switch to Android.
She did, that's why she's having problems.
No, she shouldn't. And you shouldn't. And you should not me. Cause he'll mess you up intentionally and tell you, you need to switch to Apple, yeah.
I've never met anyone with more of a technological black belt. Like she walks in a room, my computer stops working.
Oh my
God.
God.
Yes, for
She's like Indian. She's like Indian.
Oh, yeah, I'm actually
Yeah,
better.
that is perfect. That's your new nickname. EMP. Electromagnetic pulse. Yeah.
But
The other day, for no reason, for calendar, just like I would send calendar invites and we couldn't figure out what was going on with it. And then I go into the time zone settings and somehow she's on Mountain Time.
Nigeria. Oh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it just randomly did that, like, I wasn't even, I don't know, everything, there's everything, technology, like, it's bad.
one even showed up like 1 year.
That's going on a t-shirt. I'm getting it too. My purpose is to be the local office EMP.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Oh,
display badges of your profile.
Yeah.
Only like.
Show her your remarkable.
Oh, yeah. You lose your.
I'm sure you're gonna take notes today.
Says
Just,
that.
trying to tell me about it.
This
It's
is
all new.
crazy. I didn't operate these.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Why do you share?
I know.
I've been recognized as
I got.
Kyle.
Yeah.
I love it.
I got a notebook. This is good stuff.
Well, I won't go with your badge. I don't know what that means.
I do, but I can't sell past this minute. Cause then I have to borrow.
I run in section.
And yeah, I think they've stopped coming in.
But like all citizens who, where am I?
I did not see that.
Yeah, I didn't say.
Come on.
It was.
Sure.
Sure.
I was like, this is not.
That was good.
Hey.
You ready to go? Yep, I think everybody's in. It's coming.
Mike delivers the competition.
Yeah, I saw Justin, so.
He'll be in then.
Okay, that's big time.
I like that was not.
All right, you guys ready? For this riveting class? Okay, so my name's Angie Shaw. I know most of you. I'm with Fidelis. Also with Fidelis here today is Jess Friend, and our newest team member for Iron Valley is Celine, who is back there in the corner. Celine is bilingual, so she's a great asset to our team. And you'll be seeing her a lot at she'll be at the next meeting, so we'll, announce that further for people that aren't on this workshop. So let me ask you a question. So today, I myself will be teaching the lending side of it. Just a brief overview. I'm not going to get into the minutia because every file is different, as you know, and there's twists and turns to every situation. But I'll go over the basic overview. We also have a HUD licensed inspector, and you actually cannot do a full 203K without one. This is Mike Beekler with the Inspection Center. He's been a home inspector for many, many years, highly regarded in this community. And he also happens to be one of my favorite humans and my brother. So, he has a wealth of knowledge about 203K because without him, you can't proceed with the 203K. So let me ask you a question. Who has done a 203K? Oh, wow. Okay. So how was your experience?
Difficult.
It's a lot.
Easy,
I have your handouts right here.
Thank you.
Difficult. Did you say
easy,
easy?
easy.
Really?
It was lovely. I mean, really.
It was easy? Are you
Easy.
being sarcastic?
No, I mean, there was some hoops to jump through here and there, but
Pay attention.
better than not selling something.
So this is the reason why, so I'm gonna ask Sharon and Kyle, so what made it terrible or hard?
Oh, I didn't say terrible. It's just.
Oh,
more
what'd you say?
involved
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Than what you're normal.
Yeah, definitely.
Finding contractors.
Yes.
Mhm.
So that's the biggest thing. So the reason why I wanted to give this workshop, we wanted to give this workshop to you is because we get almost every single day, we get calls from agents who understandably beg us to switch the FHA approval to conventional because they found a house. Sellers won't accept FHA financing. The buyers love the property. And there's oftentimes we always shoot for, at least we do at Fidelis, we shoot for conventional first because we know this market, we know what you're up against, and we want to provide you and the client the best path forward. But oftentimes the reason they're in FHA is because there's something preventing them, credit score, debt to income, things like that. So with the 203K, there are two types of 203K loans. Does anybody know what those two types are?
Limited and standard.
Yes. You get a gold star. So limited is, that is the only time that you don't need Mike. If you're doing a limited 203K, it's $35,000 or less. And you'll notice on your, the top sheet that I gave you, I think the top sheet, yep. So on the limited, it's maxed out at 35,000 and there's no structural allowed. So that's good for renovations like kitchens, bathrooms, etc. Sometimes they'll use it for roofs.
Yeah, it's mostly for single item stuff and more complicated stuff like kitchens and bathrooms.
Well, I know, then you got a price factor. So I do realize that 35,000 is not going to get you a lot of mileage with a kitchen, but maybe a bathroom. And maybe a kitchen was started and not finished. Oftentimes, some of these houses that you run into, they're not completed or something's missing, so we can bridge that gap. So with the standard, there's a list of items that you can do for the standard, and it's really an amazing product. If you can get the seller to accept it, there's really no reason for the seller not to accept it, other than we do ask that you look at a 45 to 60 day close. So that's a little longer than the norm. But some sellers don't want to be out. And if they have a property sitting and, you know, for whatever reason it's not selling, this is a great product. So the process for the qualification for the 203K is the same as FHA. So we need at least a 580 credit score. Now there's some caveats that push that up to a 620. That's why I said I'm not going to really get into the minutia of the details for each, you know, file, because everyone's different. But if you have a 580 credit score, there's a good chance you could qualify for the 203K. They do allow, I hesitate to even say this, but they do allow up to 55% debt to income. That's not ideal. So there always has to be some other like compensating factors, but we can push that. We require 3.5% down, but they do finance 100% of the repairs. Here's the catch for you as an agent. You as an agent, because we have to determine what the after, we're going to lend based on the after improved value. So you have to go in, determine how much, what work they're going to be done, how much it's going to appraise after the work's going to be done, which can be tricky. What
Can be,
is tricky?
if you don't know what you're doing.
Can be. So we will lend up to 100% of that value combination. So that is where your role is going to be key. Also getting a contractor, and I know Mike will talk about, you know, some things that will, a lot of things that will make the process successful. What makes a 203K tricky is you get a contractor that has never done one before. There's a lot of paperwork, a lot more than a normal. They're not just going to throw a bid, handwritten bid at you, and you're going to sign it. There's more paperwork involved. The buyer cannot self-construct. Is that the right way to say it? They cannot do the work themselves. So that. No, don't do that. Okay. So anyway, you didn't see that. You can talk to Mike after about that. But
Can I ask a
yes.
question? So the purchase price is X. Let's say it's $100,000. After repairs is 150. Is transfer tax on 150 or 100?
100.
100.
It's
Okay.
on the, yeah, it's on the.
So it's not on. Okay.
So we lend purchase price plus construction. So title is going to be based on purchase price.
Mhm.
We're lending on the after improved value. That's where you come in.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the transfer tax based on the purchase price. That's what's going to be recorded as the purchase price, because the repair cost is rolled into the loan, not recorded as a purchase price. So you're to have so say you walk into a property, we'll just walk you through this. So you go to a property, you identify that, you know what, my buyers have been looking for a year, they haven't been able to find anything. They're willing to go through the extra steps that we're gonna be required to do to get this 203K. This could work. You call us, you get them pre-qualified for this product. It's assuming we already have them pre-qualified. We're just gonna run some numbers. We're gonna ask you, how much is the house gonna be worth? What do you think needs to be done to make this 203K acceptable property? So from there, you can write the contract. Now you're gonna write the contract of what you're gonna offer. Forget about the repairs. And then in order to start the process, you have to get a HUD inspector, licensed HUD inspector, which Mike is, unless you're doing a streamline. It's very rare that we do streamline 203Ks. Most of the time you get in there, because the expense, there's some extra expense involved. You can still get the 6% seller's help. That's based on the purchase price as well. Just sort of, so you have everybody under contract. Next step is you reach out, because he's going to determine then, okay, that's great. You want this, this, and this, but this is what HUD's going to require in addition to that.
Right.
So go ahead.
So on your sales contract, when you make the offer, what you want to do is put on there contingent on FHA 203K financing. So what that's gonna then allow is for you to call me or another HUD consultant. We're gonna go through and basically do a home inspection, but we specifically look for obviously major things that are wrong that we do for home inspection, but FHA specific items as well. Okay. When you do that, when you write those things on the contract, not a lot of agents know this process. So they're gonna see FHA and go, no, the house won't. All of the repairs, every single repair is done after closing. The seller doesn't have to do anything. None of the repairs. So that's what makes it so cool. The seller doesn't have to worry about, they don't have money, they don't want to do it, they don't want to deal with doing the repairs, all those kind of things. So you go into this type of loan.
So I deal with this all the time. When agents call me and say, hey, we're having problems, I've got some FHA buyers, they're looking at this house, we know there's gonna be some issues.
Yep.
But they don't anticipate big issues. They're talking, you need to paint the barn out back. You need to put on a couple handrails and some GFCI receptacles. That would be a candidate for the streamline.
It would. So, and I'm not saying not to do the streamline. I don't get involved in those, but just be careful when you go through those with as an agent, that the appraiser won't pick something else out. Okay. So just go through a little bit more thoroughly with kind of thinking FHA, and are they going to pick out the roof, or are they going to pick out water in the basement or something like that? So just keep that in mind. But I agree with you 100%. That's definitely times when you can use a streamline, and I think it could be used more often in those simple situations where you have peeling paint, some cracked windows, a handrail here or there, that kind of stuff. And streamline's the way to go.
Rather than to get into a situation where a buyer and all his buddies have a pre-settlement possession addendum to go over there and paint this thing before closing.
Yep.
Which is not advisable.
No.
But this could get you out of it, that all could be done after closing.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
and it would be paid for and professionally done.
Correctly. There is nothing that needs to be done prior to closing. Now I say that with a little bit of caveat, because there could be, like, if they're doing all kinds of repairs and then there's something major that needs to be done, but you can have a termite treatment done, you can have a septic installed, you can have a well drilled.
You can turn it into a 4-unit. You can
You can turn it, they don't really like those. If you're gonna turn it into a multi-unit, they're gonna be really strict on numbers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We've worked on properties that have partial commercial. The only thing with that is none of the rehab money can go into the commercial side.
Wow.
And there's a percentage. And I don't have it off the top of my head, but if you're running that situation, we can look at that. Yeah, I mean, it is really an amazing program that so many people don't understand. And the reason why is before, they used to go through and say, okay, well, we have this loan for you, that you can rehab, and here, have the contractor fill out this paperwork. You're lucky if you get 1 out of 10, and then to do it to the detail. So what I do is go through, I do the inspection, do the termite inspection, go through the person's wish list that they want to do. We put on FHA, any FHA requirement things. And then I can give a rough number of what we're looking for. You go out and get bids from contractors, and I have contractors that work 2 or 3K that are used to it. The big thing is there's no upfront money, so a lot of contractors are afraid to do that, but it's guaranteed money. Like there's good and bad, okay, no upfront money, but you have money set in an escrow account that I come through and say, okay, you got this amount of work done, you get paid. Contractors not having to wait for months to get payment.
What if, so let's say we're moving forward with this and we have our amount of what is going to be in the rehabbing.
Mhm.
So what if, so nothing's done till after settlement? What if once you start working and you start like, let's say it's something interior and you have to like do something with walls and you realize, oh, well, this isn't right, we need to fix this
Yep.
now before we can fix
Yep.
this.
So 2 things. One, there's a contingency reserve that's required in all of them, minimum of 10%, maximum of 20%, depending on how questionable the repairs are. So let's say that we come up with repairs that are $10,000. Or let's say they're $20,000, okay? So for $20,000, there's at least $2,000 set aside. I'll give you the worst case scenario that happened to me at the house in Harrisburg had hot water, radiator heat. So we went through, the house was vacant. I didn't see any damage to the radiators, so we put an amount in for the repairs to the boiler and everything like that. They went through, they energized, all of the system was completely ruined. It was $25,000. They only had $35,000 in repairs. So we rearranged the money. It took a little bit of extra work, not prior to closing. This was once the work started, but we rerouted. FHA didn't want the house not to be worth its value after the fact, but there were some things that the purchaser had to give up that they wanted to do, and we rerouted the money for what needed to be done. So yeah, it's definitely, it's not a, oh no, we walk away from the house type of thing. We work with that to see what needs to be done. Yes.
Does it affect the timeline before the client or the owner moves in? Because isn't there a 60-day timeline on FHA?
So you have 6 months to do
months.
the repairs and you don't have to occupy the property.
Okay.
Just
Go ahead.
6 months is the number that's put down everywhere. They will not start being nasty until 1 year.
Okay.
Okay, so because what happens, so what you have to write a letter. And I'm sorry, Angel, I don't mean to step on toes.
No, you're
It's just
fine.
real life.
She hates talking to me.
I've done so many of these. So what happens is, so you write the contract, it settles, it's March, all of a sudden we have 2 months of rain. You're not putting a roof on. So, or you're not doing outside painting. So a letter gets written, 6 months come up, letters get written, said, okay, well, we're working on it. You have to show progress. Can't say, oh, no work's been done at all. But as long as you're showing progress, that things are progressing, they're fine with extending that beyond the 6 months. But they try to have it happen within 6 months. That's the ideal thing.
Good.
So some of the things that this is a rehab loan. So FHA is looking at this as an improvement loan. So there are a couple things that they look at that are a little bit, let's say, harder or more strict than a regular FHA loan. Not the streamline, but when you go with the standard loan. So one of the things is insulation. There's no insulation in the attic, gotta put insulation in. Doesn't have to meet new code, but there has to be some insulation put in. Okay, so just some of those improvements, like electric. They obviously don't want knob and tube wiring. Ungrounded wiring, if there's some wiring improvement, old electric services, some of that's looked at a little more critical. Galvanized pipes, some of those things are looked at a little more critical, that they want those things improved. Okay, they really want to do energy improvement type of stuff. If your furnace is really old and it's last leg, they want to have that included in the loan. And it's for the best interest of the buyer anyway. You want them to move into the house, and then in a year the furnace goes or the air conditioner goes. So you wrap it in the loan.
Can you do knob and tube on a streamline?
I mean, I think the appraiser's gonna call that out.
No, streamline would be, they're putting that in.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that
it's not
dollar amount.
structural.
Yeah.
So yeah, that should be fine.
So,
Oh, I misunderstood your question.
yeah, so kitchen and bathroom, I know Angie said that about streamline. You can do them streamline as long as you're doing in the same footprint. Like you can't add a
Mhm.
bathroom in streamline. You can't take this wall out and make these two rooms now the kitchen and streamline. But if this room was the kitchen and you just want to change the cabinets out, you can do that in a streamline. But so how extreme this is, if you have the corner of a foundation of a house, you can build an entire house on FHA 203K. You can tear down an existing structure as long as you keep the foundation and rebuild a new house using 203K.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. So that's why when you go and look at a house, there's nothing, like I was telling Angie, there's some situations. I was at a house in Middletown last week and they started at the house at 290. They're now down at 190. It needs a roof, needs roof sheathing, needs central air, and they probably could sell the house at 290. Well, that's not $100,000. But everyone that goes in there and looks at it, sees those things, sees the soft wood, the roof, indented some. So on that situation, if the seller could refinance their existing or even get a loan for 203K, they could finance the repairs and then you as an agent can list their house after improved and then pay off that loan.
So you can refinance into a 203K?
You can use a 203K, you can get a 203K if you have an existing.
If you already own the house, yep. So on the listing side, if you guys go in the house needs a lot of work, but it's worth this. But you also know that if you're only gonna get investors that are gonna really lowball the price, it's a consideration. Yep. So there's just a lot of things, if you just look outside the box a little bit, of how you could use the loan program.
So this is, I know like a very little bit about this. What's the when you talk about streamline?
Streamline is, so like you say, non-tube wiring or septic, what you do is, so the house is priced at $100,000. Let's say it needs a septic, so a septic, you have to get an estimate from a septic company, they're gonna give an estimate for that amount, let's say it's $30,000. So that $30,000 then gets financed, and that's paid after closing. So the house.
Maxed out at 35K, that's the key
The
to
dollar amount,
the streamline.
and it can't be structural.
Plus you don't, you're not
okay.
required, no structural and you don't need a HUD inspector.
Okay, gotcha.
So yes, and those funds are, and the work doesn't have to be done till after settlement.
Mhm.
So unlike conventional FHA where you have to have those repairs done and signed off by the appraiser before it will settle, this is all done after the fact. So same with non-tube wiring, if you had non-tube wiring you need to replace, you'd have to have the estimate from the electrician. And that dollar amount is what we set aside escrow to be paid.
And does so whoever's gonna be your contracting to do whatever it is, do they have to be approved before they are?
They have to be
Just really-
licensed in
Okay.
Pennsylvania.
So really you go with anyone that's licensed?
You would, I would say the keys to success for this program is there's a couple of things. Preparing your borrower, which we will do on the lending side as much as we can, but the backup from the agent is really helpful. There's more hoops to jump through. Obviously so, because they're getting it, think of it as, I know some of you in here have done fix and flips. You're getting 100% financing for the repairs. So HUD wants to make sure, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. So to have a successful transaction, it's going to really depend on your HUD inspector, your list of contractors, because every single person I've talked to, or we've done this, that they've had a terrible experience, it is because the contractor will not complete the forms. It drags on and on and on, and it can really turn a normal transaction that's maybe a little bit longer than normal into this nightmare. So that is really the key. And connecting with people who have those resources and know what they're doing is really key to a successful transaction. And Go ahead.
So I'm gonna give you an example. So what had, even in Streamline, they require this. So let's say they needed knob and tube wiring and they needed some plumbing work and some, painting for peeling paint. A contractor can't go in and just say, okay, here's my bid, here's my bid's $10,000, and here's, I'm gonna paint, I'm gonna replace knob and tube wiring, I'm gonna replace the galvanized. It's not detailed enough. They wanna know what room, so I'm gonna paint this window, and I'm gonna paint that door, and I'm gonna paint that baseboard. That has to be listed with a dollar amount beside the painting. The knob and tube wiring, I'm gonna replace the knob and tube wiring in the attic, I'm gonna replace the knob and tube wiring in the basement, I'm gonna replace 5 receptacles. And there has to be a dollar amount for that item. And then, so each of those things have to be, and sometimes they have to have quantities beside them with a dollar amount per quantity. Because when whoever does the inspection after the work is done has to say, oh yeah, for that dollar amount, you're getting this work done. And a lot of contractors don't do that. Their programs aren't set up to do that. They don't like to show. The big kickback is, well, I don't want to show you my profit. I'm like, show me your profit. I don't care what your profit you're making. I need to know how much you're charging per receptacle. So when I go back through and do my inspection, you charge $200 to install 3 receptacles. I go back through and do my inspection, 3 receptacles are installed, you get your $200. That is all it is. I don't care if you charge $400 for it. I don't care. Now, you can't charge an arm and a leg, you can't overcharge, but so that there's some sort of reference that what you're getting paid for. But that's the bottom line. That's what FHA wants to see, and the inspector wants to see.
But when do the contractors get paid? What?
So there's no upfront money, so they get paid as the work is completed. So, yep, so when something is done or partially done. So it's not like new construction where you have to get to a certain point. So there's like 35 line items on the standard 203 connect. So one's electric, one's heating. So the heating contractor, let's say they're replacing the HVAC unit. And the guy said, well, I need money up front. You know what? When to pull the ductwork out, when to pull the old unit out. I'll give you 50% on the first draw. So it's not hard to work with that stuff, but they won't give you 100% up front, or they won't give you anything up front until you start to do work. So until you have some sort of vested interest in the job being completed. But I can do 10% of one thing, I can do 20% another, 50% of something else of each of those line items when I go out and do the inspection.
And you create the draw schedule, correct, as the HUD inspector?
Yep.
And just so you know, the minimum required amount is $5,000 in repairs. So that would obviously fall right into.
When you're looking for like a contractor, can you get like a second opinion or, get an estimate from 2 or 3 people?
And so we use a software called Xactimate. I don't know if anyone does construction or like that. It's a national software. So one of our jobs is to make sure that they're not charging for gold plated nails, some exorbitant. To make sure their numbers are fairly reasonable. So all of that is kind of, but you can get 5 estimates if you want. It just takes longer than, to settle that kind of stuff. Because in order to settle, I'm going to take a contractor's estimate, and I actually can go through and give rough estimates in the very beginning, say, okay, well, it's gonna be $1,000 for a sliding door, it's gonna be with 3 windows replaced, so that's gonna be $1,800, just so they have a ballpark that we're talking about. Then they get contractors, then I take the contractor's estimate and I regurgitate that and make it into HUD language, so the lender can understand what they're giving money for, the appraiser knows what's being done and how much money is being put for each of those items, so they can appraise it based on the after improved value and give money based on the after improved value.
How current is your software?
It's updated at least once a week.
Okay.
If not every 2 or 3 days. Since COVID, sometimes I get updates every day. It's adjusted for zip code as well. Yeah. So it's pretty, every now and then there'll be little glitches, but it's like, this is not a set in stone thing. Contractor comes back and says, Mike, your price for this is way out of line. Research is like, oh, fine. And so that's not, the pricing part isn't I mean, if they're way out of line, I'll know. And that's really just, it's not to say you have to do a receptacle for $50 receptacle. That charges 65, I'm not gonna, fine, charge 65, get it done. It's fine. If they charge 150 per receptacle, that's not okay. So it's that kind of thing, it's just to kind of keep things a little bit. You're not gonna get Philadelphia pricing for electric in the city of Portland.
So some of the forms required, just because we can't drive this home enough with the contractor and having the contractor or making sure that the contractor's on board with this. If you have any interest at all in doing 203K loans, I would start researching this now. You can reach out to Mike. He can give you a list of HUD or contractors that have already done work. You can check them out, see if you vibe with them. But on the second page of your buyer's guide, and you can hand this out to your buyers just to give them an overview. There's an agent guide, which sort of walks you through the process, and it's similar to the buyer's guide. So contractor bid, W-9 form, all that stuff, licensed, workman's comp, liability, errors and omissions, fidelity, contractor profile report, which we will help you with, and then the contractor agreement, which the buyer also signs. So once you determine who you're going to use, everybody's going to start signing a bunch of forms so that everybody's on the same page.
And everybody, and the purpose of that is, everybody agrees, one, that work is being done, and two, it's being done at that price. So sometimes what happens, believe it or not, with buyers, I'm gonna be shocked that I tell you this, but they think that they're getting something that they're not. And they thought somebody said something that wasn't said, so when everything's in writing, everyone signs off on it. No, you're getting 3 receptacles, not 10. This one, this room is being painted, not that room. So it just makes sure everything is in line, so.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
I don't know if you already, maybe you answered this question. What if? Does this also apply? Let's say there's a detached garage and the roof is falling off of it. Is that also, something that?
So,
should be
so
part of
you
this?
can't build a detached garage, so on there, Angie has this that you can't do, but you can
Oh.
do work on existing detached garage.
Right.
And
okay,
also,
yes.
and also another caveat with that is that can't be the only thing that gets done. Is the detached garage.
Okay.
So I know you said at the beginning that you can't do the work yourself. Well, what happens if your client is a contractor?
So. Most lenders, they will not pay him direct.
Okay.
Just won't be. So. They have to figure out, they have to have a contractor that is going to bid, that is going to sign off for that bid. Whatever that homeowner and that contractor works out. I don't wanna know about it. Lender doesn't wanna know about it, but.
Our agent doesn't wanna know.
Ace doesn't know.
Broker doesn't wanna know.
Didn't even ask the question.
I didn't hear anything.
Fantastic.
That does come up though.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the probably top 5 questions we get.
Well, and the
Can
reality
I
of
do
it,
the work?
so the reality of it is as well, when you sit back and think about it, and I do almost all my own work on my own homes. You're taking time away from you making income. So when you're looking at a large project, do you really have the time to do all the work yourself? The reality of it is most times, no. You could do some of the work, and that's why I say the contractor and homeowner have to work on whatever that stuff out themselves. But HUD wants to make sure there's enough money to finish the property. There's been times when contractors have walked away, homeowners have walked away, and they want to make sure there's money in escrow that they can finish the house, and the house can then go back up for sale if they're not dealing with a half-finished vacant house. So that's also part of this reason why they won't allow the homeowner to do the work themselves or have paperwork. You know, if the roof needs replaced, they're not gonna give you $1,500 for material and say replace the roof. They're gonna give enough money so that a contractor, legitimate contractor, will have enough money to replace it. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
So from the HUD consultant, Mike, you'll get the work write-up, the specifications of repairs, both what you want to do or your client wants to do, plus what HUD's going to require you to do. The identity of interest certification, make sure he's not involved in the transaction on the side, and then the full draw request. So you're gonna come up every single time with the draw request.
Yep.
And then from the borrower, just some signed acknowledgement, certification, things like that. Homeowner agreement, which we talked about before. So, from the contractor bid, they're gonna be, they're gonna need to get all the permits, everything like that. Just think of it as sort of like a new construction if you're thinking in terms of,
Or remodel.
or remodel. Yeah, that, the same thing is gonna apply. We're gonna need all those things.
Need copy, and you will need, the lender on your first draw will need a copy of the building permit showing that the building permit. Now, if none's required, that's fine too, but then you need something from the township that says that building permit's not required for this repairs.
Now, something that Mike does that is unique, I would say, that I just have to point out because I think it's something of value. He does his HUD inspection for free. And he charges for a home inspection and termite. And the reason he does that is because so that for liability purposes, the homeowners don't come back and say, well, you said I didn't need this, you didn't look at this. Because a HUD inspection is completely different than a home inspection. A home inspection is more thorough. So he does not charge for his HUD inspection. Or he charges for a full home inspection and a termite. So if you don't use Mike and you use another HUD inspector, you just want to be aware of that your borrower knows. The HUD inspection is not, just like the appraisal, is not a home inspection. So I don't know what kind of liability, you have, or Justin, what you can maybe speak to this, what you would be required to cover your agents so that they're not caught on something like that. What would be your response to that?
With,
Not to put you on the spot, but
say that again.
so a HUD
Please.
inspection, even though it's very extensive
Is
for the 203K, is not a home inspection.
because it's not as thorough.
You know-
There's actually not a standard on a home inspection, right? A home inspection is for buyers' informational purposes, and it covers a whole list of stuff. And for a buyer, they can walk away from a deal for a cracked receptacle cover, or they can accept to move forward with a damaged foundation. It's up to them as long as the lending will permit it. However, the HUD inspection, that is for a totally separate standard. It's very similar to the differences between when the township pumps your septic, because they have a standard there, and you get a real estate inspection of your septic system. Those standards are entirely different.
That's a great analogy.
Because one is required by an entity, the other one is for the buyers and, informational purposes. So would I consider that our agents are liable?
Well, how to make them the least liable in that situation?
You
Just
know-
make them aware.
Well, here's the question that I go to contractually. If we're getting a HUD inspection, right? Because we're doing the 203K, we waive the inspections on the contract to get the deal through, and then Mike does a home inspection. How do we rectify that?
So,
You mean a HUD inspection?
Well, a HUD inspection, but his HUD inspection is a home inspection.
so the purpose of that is, the way around that, and that's an awesome question, is with the understanding all the repairs are being done after closing. There's the buyer's not asking for any repairs to be done prior to closing. And even if you only get a HUD inspection, you could still lose the deal if the HUD inspection comes back. Let's say the buyer is qualified for $40,000 of repairs above the asking price.
Here's where it gets a little bit tricky, is during the course of the HUD inspection, we see things that may be addressed after closing, but are a deal breaker for the buyer. So I would encourage you, if you are writing a 203K loan, to make it contingent upon a home inspection.
To protect.
And
Because
that's what I was saying with Mike and maybe other HUD inspectors do it this way, but
I don't know of anybody that does them anymore. It used to be years ago, and even when I started doing them, I'd do $100 feasibility study for HUD stuff. But I've only been, I've been sued very few times, and I've been doing it, the home inspections for 30 years and HUD inspection for 27. Most of those were had involved HUD inspections that the client turned around and said, for my feasibility study for $100, that I didn't find this or I didn't let them know about this defect. So I stopped doing that.
And you start telling them about everything.
Well,
Right.
we go through.
Yeah.
And realistically, and I've never had one fail, walk away because the buyer didn't want to buy the house because of something outside of a HUD. It's more that it opens their eyes to see, okay, well, let's do this also. Because you can include it in.
And then it fails on appraisal because the after renovation value doesn't support the.
I've not had one that failed.
oh God, would you knock on wood?
The appraisers are given a very broad, they can, so things they can do, and I'm not the appraiser, so I'm just telling, okay, things I've heard appraisers can do. They can like go outside of market area, like there's all kinds of things they can do to justify. They're even given a little bit of wiggle room on, energy efficiency stuff.
Oh, it's speculative. They can go to the high end of the range. They can create their own bracket because they can, they're no longer bounded by condition.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, there's other things that it doesn't work out sometimes, can't get contractors, the pricing. What kills most of these deals is people go into Home Depot and they look, oh, you can get a sliding door for $500. So they go through, you can get the cabinets are $800. The countertop is $350. So they go through in their mind, well, I can renovate this kitchen and put these doors in for $5,000. And then I go through and say, it's gonna be $25,000. Like, what? How can it be? So that's, if you wanna know where most of these fail, it's there. In the buyer's mind, they have this super low number of what they can do all these repairs for. And they just don't know the reality of what the cost of the improvements are.
That's why you write it contingent on the HUD inspection,
Yeah.
because when the HUD inspector comes back and says, here you go, this is what it's gonna cost, presumably this is what it's
Okay,
gonna
yeah,
cost.
that's contingent upon the HUD
It
inspection.
has to be if you
And-
write it as the.
And if you're doing that on the contract, I would use under the menu of due diligence, it's the blank one that says other.
There you go.
I would put it there. That way the same timeframes apply.
And that way you don't get into issue because you don't necessarily know what the buyer's opinion of their top dollar is. So if in their mind they thought it could be done for $5,000 and end up being 25, then you don't have this back and forth with the seller saying, oh, well, you agree to do these repairs. Well, it just blows it out of the water.
You said make it contingent with the same timelines. Can you get a HUD inspection done within 10 days? You can.
Yeah,
Okay.
still do the same
Okay.
way. Yep. They'll know, so within 24 hours, I provide the home inspection report with, and then the caveat is with that. It's just a separate form, just says these are the HUD requires and gives basic parameters for pricing.
Well,
But
give yourself extra time.
Probably
So
give
the
yourself
contractor
extra
You can
time.
get the estimates.
Get the estimates right.
I mean, has there ever been a scenario where you can have the contractor go through with you during the HUD report?
It's ideal.
Okay,
We try to have that happen.
that way you're working concurrently,
Exactly.
and
And there's no
whipping out.
question, what did you mean this? Did you mean that? Like, there's what you're calling was this the family room or was this the family room?
Yeah.
Like, those kind of things.
So if you get a good solid contractor, they can walk through with you.
Yeah.
And probably whip out that estimate in a similar time frame as your report.
That's exactly right.
It's getting easier and easier.
So I have a different kind of question.
Mm-hmm.
When, for the client, when do their payments start? Is it when everything's finished? Because, okay, so no, wait, I'm trying to gather.
Aren't you hopeful? No, that the payments begin at closing, right? Or
Okay, so here's the deal.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna bring it up. I said I wasn't gonna bring it.
No.
But now that you brought it up, it's fine because it is an option. It's just case by case. So I don't want to say across the board. So for Streamline, they start just like a regular mortgage. So
Okay.
they start say you close today, your first payment will be due August 1st.
Okay.
For full 203K, there is a chance that you can finance up to 6 payments. So you would have no payments due during the construction.
It's an option though. It's not.
Just, the reason why I'm asking is because depending on what all they need
Yeah.
done, they may not be living in that house. And yes, they purchased it, I understand, like,
Oh, that brings up a great point, actually. For a streamline, it has to be habitable for the home buyer for you to qualify for a streamlined. Period. For the full 203K,
yeah,
it does not have to be habitable. And in those cases, in most cases, because you're probably going to be paying monthly payments, they move in with a relative, they make other arrangements during that time. Sometimes the work, we've had people move into a couple rooms.
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
okay.
That's allowable, so it just depends, it's a case by case basis, but potentially. You could roll in up to 6 payments into the loan. But again, we have that appraisal. We have to worry about that.
So that's not like. It's not like they just begin the term 6 months later. You're actually financing that in,
Yeah.
so your loan is higher.
Correct, you're rolling in.
So if your payment's
Payments.
$1,000 a month and you're purchasing the property for $200,000, your loan is now $206,000. It's not that you just start 6 months later.
Right, and they're not gonna exclude that portion of it. So when they are looking at the appraisal, so. We have to keep that in mind. That's why I'm hesitant to talk about it. There are cases that you guys get in, you get the buyers an amazing deal. I've seen it happen. You do repairs and there's a lot of wiggle room and you can make
And
that
you
happen.
just start rolling stuff in. You just start
Whatever.
just cramming it in
Have you
there.
thought about this? Windows, be one, let's make a deal. It's actually, can you adjust if you're into it and the appraised value comes in higher, can we add things to the?
You didn't close, you keep adjusting it to close.
Keep on shopping.
I didn't know the answer to that, so that's great.
But yeah, once you close, there's no more money. So like you asked earlier, what if there's something you pull the wall on, all of a sudden there's termite damage?
That's when we start rearranging.
Rearranging. There's no more extra, doesn't matter what sob story you have, there is no more extra money. Whatever the amount, the cost of the improvements plus contingency, that's the total amount. Then we readjust.
Any questions? Throw them at us. Any scenarios that you've come across that you want to run through and see if it could potentially be an option?
So I saw on here, it says about swimming pools. So like, let's say someone's purchasing a home. So they have to have things that are being remodeled in the home, but let's say that swimming pool needs a new liner.
So there's a dollar amount that's a limit, and I don't remember what that is right now, but you have to do improvements first. I think it's 5,000 minimum first.
Mhm.
Then you can do improvements to an existing in-ground swimming pool, not above ground at all.
Yeah,
But not install a new swimming pool. There's money to
yeah, I understand that, okay.
Yes,
Those are the things
that
I don't
answered
know
my
about.
question. I was gonna say no new pool.
Yes.
And that's only on a standard. You
Yeah.
can't do any of that on that street line.
Okay, yeah,
Nothing like that is allowable.
yeah.
But you can do outdoor kitchens.
What?
Yeah. Outdoor kitchen, I mean, they're running what?
Well, it says
50 grand?
ineligible repairs are luxury items like outdoor kitchen.
No, for the stand. Wait,
Don't make it a luxury outdoor.
both
Right.
programs. Okay, I was wrong.
Just make it a very nice,
Wait, that's not right.
That's not right.
that's not right. So you can do an
Wait,
outdoor.
there's a caveat to that though. Hold
Yeah,
on.
so you can't do that in the first 5,000. So if you're doing other things, like they're doing a
I know you can
roof,
do
they're doing some other stuff. They just don't want that to be the bulk part of those.
Yeah.
The improvement.
So I'm not asking for a general, or just an overall yes and no, this is like a
gonna get back
a
to
general
you.
understanding. As long as we have $5,000 of repair within the home itself. Anything that is a permanent fixture on the property can then also have repairs like an in-ground swimming pool or a already built
Detached
garage,
garage.
detached garage, if it's a permanent fixture on the property, as long as there are $5,000 worth of repairs within the home, we can talk about these other items.
And they have some type of value, so like if you have a shed that is set there on stone and it's a 10 by 12 shed. I mean, if it needs peeling paint, but it's a whole shed, I don't, some of those are a little bit gray, I'm not sure about that.
Just because of the appraised value,
Because
the return on the money.
Exactly, like a gazebo, like I had one where there was like a gazebo, and it was small, like 10 by 10. And it was rotted, like it needed replaced, and they wouldn't go for that, they needed it poured out.
And there's almost no value.
Yeah, that's the thing, like, so if the appraiser's not giving value to it, they probably can't do work to it.
But a one-car garage is gonna add value to that.
Exactly right, garage is definitely gonna have that, so garage, detached garage, it's just, some people tried to do this with adding a garage. Now, what's interesting is, I think you can add an attached garage, matter of fact, I'm sure you can, there's not a detached garage. And again, after the $5,000 of
Because it's an improvement to the existing structure.
Mhm.
Whole barns now.
whole barns now, unless you can talk to people into.
So it's a government program.
don't like to.
So don't try, it's a government program, so don't try to get too crazy with it.
Oh, I don't know.
No?
It's a government program, you can get pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I'm looking at,
So-
like, how can we pull a rabbit out of a hat here? I wanna take a ranch house, add a second story, make it into a 4-unit.
Oh my gosh. Don't call me. Oh my god.
Right here, up the.
Micah's Wyatt Earp and Fidelis.
I don't know, dealing with the government is like dealing with a gray cloud, like it just is.
Preach.
There's broad parameters that you have to work within, and they're not, unless you really push the limit on those parameters, they're pretty.
It waits till the last minute, so they just push it through, it's awesome.
Yeah, they're also gonna rely on the HUD inspector.
And they,
And if
and so I'm going
If
through.
he,
appraiser's
so
going
I
through-
start sucking up to him, is what I'm saying.
But the bottom
I'm
line,
kidding.
the bottom line, if you go back to the intent of this loan program, it's to improve existing housing. So that there's not as many farms being converted into housing. So existing communities, existing housing and all that kind of stuff can be revitalized. So if you're doing something that's improving a house and it's a weird thing, but it adds value, the appraiser's on board with adding value, you're good.
What are the income limits?
None,
Excuse me?
no,
She was waiting for the question to get asked. You guys have.
zero.
There-
We had
there
so
is-
many income questions today about other things.
I got a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Is there a max loan amount per house?
526,
But isn't that different for each county?
yes.
So is
I'm
it
gonna
just,
be
on
question for them.
the- is it just
Yes.
on the
No, no.
electricity?
It's just on the HUD.
Yeah.
You know, every year we put out, oh, we increased our rate, our pricing. Okay,
Just for their knowledge, just making sure that.
yeah, so
It's
it
not
just
any-
falls under the same HUD stuff that we send out every year. It goes in that same loan amount.
So hypothetical,
I can't wait for this question.
if I was outgrowing my house,
Yes.
like just not enough room for all the bikes and crap now that my kids are getting older. And there's a really awesome old dilapidated home on the corner. Like, you could see foreseeably that I could get a 203K renovation loan on that property to make that work.
Sure.
You could do it 2 or 3K on your
It
existing
carries,
home and add it.
resident requirement, all right.
Primary residence, yeah.
Yeah, or
But-
do a 203K renovation refi on my
Right.
house.
Or,
Yeah.
or you can do a 3K loan and buy that house you wanna fix up for yourself, move into that house, keep your first house as a rental.
And use that income for qualification.
Or they say.
If you're a real estate professional and have other qualifying rentals to give you the,
If you have experience in it.
yeah.
What if I wanted to build a chocolate?
Oh,
Well, 10% of your that building could be used for commercial, but you can't put any money into that commercial space, so you can do everything else. So
Except
you could have
the
living
factory.
space, your chocolate factory could be 10,000 square feet. But you're gonna live in 9,000 square feet, chocolate factory.
Alright, you don't realize it, but you just actually proposed a real question in my mind's eye. if you have, like you said, for the commercial restriction on this, if you have a commercial space, but the residential area is attached to that, you could use the 203K to build the housing for the Oompa Loompas, but not spend it on the chocolate factory.
Exactly.
My man. All right.
All right.
It's a great tool.
We are digressing so bad.
Can the buyer resell that property? Is there, how long they have to wait to resell it?
The intention is you're gonna occupy the property
For at
as
least 2 years?
1 year,
1 year.
as owner occupied for 1 year. Some stuff happens if you get transferred or something like that, things happen. We're not gonna come back and the HUD's not gonna sue you for mortgage fraud.
Correct.
But if you're buying this as a 203K, converting it, fixing it up, whatever, and 2 months later, all of a sudden, you don't live there, that's gonna be a problem. They'll call the note, potentially, and you'll be investigated for mortgage fraud. And I don't want no part of that, so. It is a real thing, people really, really, really try to do that. The occupancy thing on our end is a really big issue, we have to vet it heavily. Because, as you all know, rates are higher for investments. And FHA owner occupied is sweet rate, so it's really tempting for people.
So hypothetically, no, just-
Okay, you're cut off.
So I have now, this is kind of a weird question, but is there a time frame on how long you have to have that mortgage? Like, let's say a year, like I wanna pay it off in a year.
So no, so you can't refinance for 180 days for FHA, it's a guideline, it's built into the program. You can sell it at any time. You get relocated, you lose your job, whatever. There's no, we prefer you don't do that for the first 6 months because we get hit really hard with a penalty. But if you have to, you have to. This is mostly what we were talking about is an occupancy thing. The intention has to be on your part, honestly, to occupy the property as your primary residence for at least 12 months. If something happens, there's no prepayment penalty in Pennsylvania unless you buy a house under an LLC, then the rules change. But if you're buying it as an owner occupied, there are no prepayment penalties whatsoever in Pennsylvania.
We are never trying to figure out the workaround. Right? That's,
Are you sweating again?
no, I'm just, that's, the cuter you get, the more trouble you get in
Yeah.
and the quicker, so.
But I can see,
I just
are you
don't-
saying like, are you,
To pay it off, not to refinance.
okay,
So let's
this
say
is
you,
hypothetical.
You wouldn't
Are
borrow the money
trying-
if you
are
could pay it off.
trying To do like potentially a fix and flip situation
well,
under the 203K, and it's
okay,
okay, I'm
so
just saying
let's say-
hypothetically.
let's say you own a home,
Mhm.
but you wanna purchase something that is a little bit bigger,
Mhm.
but it's something that needs to be fixed up. So I can stay in
Oh.
my home
Oh, yeah,
and, but
okay,
then,
I'm sorry. to
then
not
after
change
this is fixed, I'm gonna sell this home, then I wanna apply that to that mortgage. Is that
Oh,
something
sure,
that can be
yes,
done?
absolutely, you can
Because
apply principal, yes.
You made that mail, so like,
Just gave yourself a bridge loan, basically.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I will say occupancy is going to be questioned 100% of the time. They will just want to make sure that whatever you're leaving is less than what you're moving to, or it'll be a really steep hill to climb.
so basically, this person that's taking the, that loan is going to live in that home, but
have
they
to.
might be able to pay it off within, like, in a year's time.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I know there's like,
When you sell your existing or your
Yes.
current.
correct, yeah.
There might be other paths, if you're sitting on that kind of equity on your primary residence, there's probably gonna be a different path that might be a little easier for you to do that
Than
situation
to
than
do
the
it,
HUD
okay.
to, yeah.
I had a situation once where a buyer they had two
Right.
FHA loans. Cause they were being
For the
transferred,
relocation,
yeah.
okay.
But-
That is allowable.
Yeah.
Um,
So that-
other familial size, if you can show that your family is growing, you can potentially have two FHA loans.
Yeah, okay.
You mentioned LLCs. This is all under personal names, not, no S corps, no LLCs.
So ever primary residence, yes.
So to follow up on that, there any eligibility in credit score to get qualified for cyber?
Yes, so as a general statement, it has to be at least 580. There's some caveats that push that up to 620. Depending on debt to income, things like that, but the program says 580, so potentially we can go down to 580.
Minimum 580.
Mhm.
Um, These are my restrictions. I work with a lot of clients who are not citizens of green cards. There is a restriction for them.
So they're non-permanent resident,
Got it, yeah,
so they just changed that with FHA,
that's what I heard.
and it applies to this too, unfortunately.
They only look that's not qualified.
You have to have a permanent resident alien card. Non-permanents right now
Yeah.
are not allowed with
If you
that.
already have one, can they continue with someone? No.
What's that?
If you already have one, do they have to get out of it or can they continue with that?
I'm not sure I understand, but if they already have a permanent resident alien,
Have a-
They already have a loan, they already have a loan,
Yeah. Can
they already have a loan, can they keep that loan?
they can keep that loan, but they can't get a new loan under the new guidelines because HUD just published that.
Got it.
Now, we're not sure what's gonna happen with that, so hopefully, I don't know, I don't wanna speak, I don't wanna get myself in trouble. But that is unfortunately where we stand right now, it has impacted a lot of people that we have pre-approved. So, but right now, we have to across the board, you have to have a permanent resident. Card. Any other questions? Any of the chocolate factory?
I do have one, but it's not for the group. I can.
Okay. Yeah, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. If you're not working with somebody else already, you can reach out to Celine. She's gonna be announced as our new newest Iron Valley team member. She's gonna be working in York, but also can help in Carlisle and Sealands Grove, and I'm not sure who all's on the call. If you guys have any questions or any buyers, reach out to your Fidelis rep. And then, I would consider, giving Mike a call with any questions as well.
Hello?
Yeah. Hello. Do you?
No, he's not talking.
He's on the phone.
Yeah,
I muted.
It's always him and it's never for us. So.
Are there any questions in the chat?
I
Okay,
I took care of him.
well, this was great. You guys brought up amazing questions.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks, Wendy.